And welcome to SATV's International Affairs Talk Show. As always, I am your host Shamsul Alam, and today we shall be discussing major world headlines. Before I do so, let me introduce to you our panelists for today. First, we have Mrs. Shaika Laulek. She is the lecturer and coordinator of the Department of English in Bangladesh University. And next, we have a heavyweight, Lieutenant General retired Dr. MD Aminul Karim, who has served in the Armed Forces of Bangladesh in various capacities, is a veteran scholar with visiting professorships at Ohio State University and the University of Malaya. Mr. Aminul Karim has also authored a range of books regarding regional cooperation and defense. Thank you both for joining our discussion today.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Let me give you the context and let me begin in a breaking news. US President Donald Trump's exchange of comment with Russian President Vladimir Putin. As we see in the media reports, after a barrage of bombardment by Russia on Ukraine, Donald Trump has commented saying that his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin is, quoted, absolutely crazy, and that Donald Trump in general is very unhappy with such an action. Later, the Kremlin clarified in its state media that these remarks of Trump were a build-up of, quoted, emotional overload. Mr. Trump did indicate that he would pursue sanctions against Russia, but is reluctant to do so in alliance with the European Union. My first question would be to Mrs. Shaika. Donald Trump has stolen the spotlight in relation to world affairs. His focus towards international issues are highlighted more often than his decision-making at home. In your opinion, should Donald Trump be addressing domestic issues of the United States before poking his nose into conflicts around the globe, which may increase chances of prolonging the conflict? Please elaborate.
Thank you for the question. So, we have seen the US President Donald Trump to give such statement yesterday, and we have also received an answer from the President of Russia, that is Vladimir Putin, who has actually elaborated on this note that this comment or statement is actually lacks the farsightedness from a big figure, a president of the United States, and which shows that he has actually lacked that future relationship building associative mentality towards Russia, Ukraine, or such countries who are actually engaged in such kind of conflicts. Moreover, if we look at the time of the incidents, that is the time when the aerial attacks were launched by the Russian militants on Ukraine, and the time when Mr. Donald Trump made a comment, that is, the timing is the comment was after the escalation of the situation. So, the comment, I think not rather the comment, rather the incident itself actually provoked Mr. Donald Trump to actually rebuke and to give such a statement. Because if it would have been his statements from long before, then we wouldn't have been witnessing such a prolonging war for the past 3 years from February 2022. So it's more of actually their intention to prolonging the war in disguise of such situations, such comments, such statements. We have seen that another rare incident that I would like to mention here, that just after a few hours of the aerial attack by the Russian militants of 9 drones and 9 missiles and 355 drones, the prisoner exchange has been taking place between Russia and Ukraine.
1,000 prisoners each on each side.
Yes, 1,000 prisoners. So it actually signifies what they want, what is their intention actually. And as far as Mr. Donald Trump is concerned, we have witnessed such kind of, what should I say, peculiar statements and very relentless statements before. If I have to give an example, sure, that a week before, when Mr. Donald Trump greeted the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in the White House, so they were supposed to elevate the and reduce the shock that the two countries has been facing for a long time. But surprisingly, the US president addressed that the white farmers in South Africa is actually being persecuted. So he actually addressed that there are white genocide taking place in South Africa. Not only that, he also, we have seen, and his words, choice of words are such that when he had a conversation with the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, over the phone, so after the conversation, his statements and reactions were like that he's very angry. I'm quoting his statements that he's very angry, he's pissed off, and he is actually being tempted by the other side to actually take him along in this conflict. So none of his statements have actually played a significant role from the past. However, it did escalated the intensity of the situation, because if we look at now that after the statement that we are talking about is actually he made that he called the Vladimir Putin absolutely crazy.
Yes.
So in my opinion, this statement could lead to two consequences. The first one, as it has been stated that Putin is absolutely crazy, so it's actually a chance for the Moscow to actually do something absolutely crazy. And now they won't have actually any excuse or any retaliation towards Kremlin. And on the other side, Kremlin is also being prepared, because if we see that the German Chancellor, Mr. Merz, he said that now no longer there will be any limitations of arms delivery towards Ukraine. So Ukraine is now free to defend itself.
Yes.
And what Germany was preparing, they were wanting to supply their missile, the Taurus missile, to Ukraine from a long discussion that we have witnessed. And the Taurus missile I mentioned is actually a very powerful missile within a range of 500 kilometers, or if I have to specify, 300 miles. So we can anticipate that what kind of intensity this prolonging could take place in the near future, as both the parties have acted on their prompt. Moreover, we have seen that in the campaigns, election campaigns, Donald Trump made some promises that he would, whenever he actually takes the control, he would actually within 24 hours will actually minimize this Russia-Ukraine conflict.
But that was his initial claimant, yes.
Yes. Rather what he did, he actually made some sanctions on Moscow. However, that didn't actually worry Moscow to take any kind of steps. But indeed, it is actually more than the statement, it is actually more the intention that the both parties are working on, and their intention of negotiation or prolonging. And as a polarized world, yes, Donald Trump's statement has some significance, but as we have not seen to implement his statements in the reality, so I think that it's more of the part of Russia and Ukraine, that how long they want to stretch this far.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaika. That was a very informative part. I'm sure that we will catch on with this story. I will now have a look at the Israel-Palestine conflict. I'll read you a headline from The Guardian. Thousands of Israelis join violent racist march through Jerusalem's Muslim quarter. State-backed Flag Day march shut down Palestinian life in Old City to celebrate Israel's 1967 annexation of East Jerusalem. I'll give you some of the casualties taking place in Gaza as well. The latest number of casualties stand at nearly 54,000 Palestinians killed and over 100,000 wounded, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. This also comes in as representatives of Hamas and U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff had reached a draft ceasefire agreement in Doha, Qatar. The proposed deal includes a 60-day truce and the release of 10 living Israeli captives alongside the remains of several others in exchange for Palestinian prisoners in 2 phases. My next question is to Mr. Aminul Karim. As you hold vast military knowledge in regard to war zones, Israel has caused a modern-day example of genocide and used technological advancements such as artificial intelligence to target women and children. Is there any significant political win for Israel committing to such horrendous act?
Thank you, Mr.
Pantho.
Pantho, yeah. And thanks to the SATV, this is my probably second or third or fourth time I'm coming to this channel, and I'm grateful to this to the authority of this SATV for giving me this opportunity to talk on all very burning and pertinent issues which are disturbing different parts of the world, Ukraine and Gaza and so on and so forth. Now this is a we call it vexed issue in geopolitics. This is a flashpoint, like Kashmir is a flashpoint, Taiwan is a flashpoint, South China is a flashpoint, and this is a vexed, historically linked issue that has its roots in 1940s and so on and so forth. Israel is an expansionist power, very aggressive power, very brutal power, and then they have committed the most heinous genocide that one can think of. And they have not honored a single UN Security Council resolution so far, not a single one. They are utilizing the best of their technologies, AI operated as you said. But I think Hamas people are also giving a good fight. They have not given up. They are dying, 54,000 dead, and I think 30% of them are children and women. And they have no shelter, no food, no medicine. They were, sheltered in a high school. The high school was bombed only just the other day. Now, I think they have a long-term plan. They want to evacuate these people out of this place like they did before. After the 67 war, and after the 1948 war, many of the Israelis had to take shelter outside Palestine in northern African countries, or in Egypt, or in Jordan, and so on and so forth. So they have a vision in league with the Americans. Americans are supporting this proposal. They want to make it their own. They will grab this part of and then just leave on the 20% or 30% of the area for the Palestine. You take it or leave it. So that is their aim. They want to fight it out. It's more than 13 months the war is dragging on, but I cannot imagine how are the Palestinians, sticking to it. They are taking the assault, the hits, what should I say? So much of torture, so much of humiliation, so much of genocide, so much of ethnic cleansing, so much of death, injuries, bombardments, and you name anything. The world is trying to, there is a mediation team working on it. They are trying to mediate it. That's good news that they will have a 60 days truce and with 10 hostages exchanged. This is very unfortunate for this world to witness such horrendous genocide, pogrom we call it, ethnic cleansing we call it. Very sad. As a human being, as a citizen of this world, I feel miserable about it. And Israel is not going to give up. No way, they will not give up. They will take over that Yunus city. I think they have already asked the people of Yunus city to evacuate. What do you call that? Whatever it is. And they have been doing it all along. East Jerusalem, they didn't agree. There was a proposal already agreed during President Clinton's time that we'll have two-state solution. Two-state solution is dead. Is dead.
Yes.
They want to make sure that project is dead, absolutely. And I'm sorry to say, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, if they have united, we could have given a good blow to the Israelis. Iran is fighting it out, but alone it cannot do it. But America, I don't know, it is a state policy. we call it vital national interest of America, that they must always support the Israelis militarily. We call it vital, ground, the ground that must be retained by military means, and that they will ensure it. At least during Biden's time, Democratic government's time, there was at least some communication. The Secretary of State used to often come and visit and try to cool them down, but that has really vanished. Even Trump wants it seriously in the heart of his heart that let this, let these people get out from this place, and we'll make. He even talked about we'll make some resorts here, something
Yes,
like
initially, a month and a half ago, Donald Trump did say that he was going to make resorts and completely change the whole land that we know as Gaza today.
And transfer them to the North African countries. That is outrageous, preposterous. And I condemn that I'm feeling very bad about that.
It's completely normal to feel distressed about such an issue.
Very, very difficult to accept it. Very, very difficult, especially for the children, small children, the babies, and it is too inhuman. But at least for the first time, the British Prime Minister and the German Chancellor has spoken against the Israel for the first time. The problem was created by the British in 1948.
Yes, 1948.
And they are the main culprit. And that Belfast statement and all those things. But at least they have spoken about it against the Israelis. Hold on. But they will not. You cannot restrain them. They will go ahead. We have to fight it out by some other means.
Thank you, Mr. Karim. I will have another question to you regarding on the same matter.
Sure.
Yesterday, we've seen in Spain the Madrid Five coming together, a coalition of 20 countries, and their main issue was regarding the recognition of the state of Palestine. Note to you that the original settlers, who are Israeli settlers, have made sure in infrastructure that they would take over the Palestine state slowly but surely. As you said, they will never stop. Earlier today, we've seen the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, also commenting before opening his talk to the media. He was commenting that an entire condemnation of the Israel state should be issued. Not only that, EU, Canada, France, UK, some of them are having talks where they are going to levy sanctions towards Israel. As we see this horrendous act, there really is no kind of political win for Israel. The only win they would arrive at is the diminishing of the Israel, of the Palestinian people. How do you see this Western influence suddenly changing? You see the majority of the white countries are now realizing, including Piers Morgan, an American broadcaster, even he admitted this was a modern day example of genocide. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's a glaring case of genocide. There's no doubt about that. I think after Hitler, I think it's much more than what Hitler did to the Jews. They put them in one gas chamber, all right, one at a time, is gone. But they are doing it since 1948. They had the war in 67, they had war in 74, and they have a war again and again. It is good. I'll just give an example of the Vietnam War. Vietnam War was prolonging and prolonging, but there was a strong public opinion in Europe, in Australia, in the American heartland itself. People were saying, no, stop this genocide in Vietnam. And America was forced, because of the public opinion, President Nixon had to instruct his Henry Kissinger to take on the negotiation, and the negotiation was carried out in Paris, and the war stopped. This is a good sign. People in hundreds and millions of them are coming out, thronging the streets of Britain and Germany and Australia and America, even in America. Stop this war. Even in Harvard University, in different universities of America, the students came out in the streets, stop this war, stop this war. It is a good sign, and I can see that the governments are also coming forward, the Prime Minister is also coming forward, they're giving statements in this parliament. That's a good sign. But I have my reservations. I have my doubts about it, because ultimately it has to go to the Security Council. Any resolution you should take. Some of the resolutions were passed. America nodded to that. But Israel never honored that. And it is impossible, almost impossible, to form an even troops, even mission, or even peacekeeping force to deter the Israelis. That is impossible at this point in time. But I would tend to say this is a good sign that we are getting sympathies from the Western world, Western people, and Western government as well. And then if you can unite, as I say again, if the Egypt comes up, Jordan comes up, Turkey comes up, Iran comes, they are put together, and Saudi Arabia is, and the UAE, they are siding towards the Americans. The Muslim community has to unite. And this is a high time that the Muslim community should unite. And that can probably deter the Israelis. But that's not happening, and I don't see the possibility of this genocide going to stop in the near future. No. This will continue till I think they have full control on the leftover territories.
Thank you, Mr. Karim.
My pleasure, yeah.
That was definitely very descriptive. I will go on to Mrs. Shaikh, a complimentary question as well. Mr. Karim has said the profuse relationship between the Muslim world, the Gulf Cooperation countries. Last week we've seen Donald Trump creating $5 trillion of deals in the Middle East.
Correct.
A larger amount of armament that has taken place between UAE, Qatar and of course Saudi Arabia. How do you see this notion that Donald Trump has armed the Middle East? Is this farsightedness that in the future we will see much more military escalation between the countries, that region? Note to you that US and Iran has been taking 5 rounds of nuclear talks of enriching uranium. And as you see, there is Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, which is just across the sea to Iran. And a nuclear spillout would definitely provoke the entire region to go for retaliatory measures. How do you see it?
Okay, thank you once again. So, Donald Trump's association with the Middle East to supply them the armed force and to strengthen the militant powers with them is actually nothing but another his technique to maintain the control as a unipolar world. As he wants to exercise the ultimate power towards Iran, and not only Iran, but he is actually making Iran the foreseen target, and he is actually exercising that target to make others realize and understand that what America has capability, that how they are prepared, that how they can actually convince and take control the territory who they actually share disputes with. So it's not just their militant retaliation, rather it is actually their foreign policy to maintain the control on the entire world. As you mentioned, that they have the talk with Iran on the nuclear issues and so on. This is actually to make the world know that yes, I am here and United States is there. So we have our wings around the world. So if anyone tries to make any kind of step or make any kind of attack towards the United States, that they have friends in each of the region in the world. And the Muslim world is not an exception over here, because we always have seen the disputes with the United States or the Western with the Eastern, especially in the Middle East, because we have seen a clash of religion, we have seen a total clash of cultures, that is, we are totally opposite to the Western culture, and the Muslim world is more of a conservative type of world who does not want to exceed their power, their territory to anyone who can actually have a grasp on that. That's why the Muslim world itself is also knowing and informing to the rest of the world that they are allied with the most powerful nation in the entire world. So if anyone has to look on them, they have their friend, that is the United States. That's why this is actually a warning to the nations, including Iran, including Turkey, including Russia, who actually possess the nuclear weapon and who actually are in dispute and continuous conflict with the United States and President Donald Trump.
Yes.
That's why they will be more of cautious from now on, as the United Nations has taken into confidence the Gulf, the Muslim world, and as well as the Asian part included, because you will see that with the Muslim world, the Asian region also share a very intimating bond. That's why it's not just the relation with the Muslim world, it's also what Trump is doing. He is actually enhancing, he is actually forwarding his hand towards the Asian as well, because if you are a friend to the Muslim world, so you can be friend with anyone.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaikh. Definitely, ladies and gentlemen, we shall be talking about the 46th Asian Summit. In addition, China's role in the South China Sea draw similarities with the West. In addition, India's perspective of Pakistan-China ties will also be discussed. Do stay with us as we head for a commercial. SATV's International Affairs talk show. Of course, we are joined with Mrs. Shaikh Laulak and retired Lieutenant General Mr. Aminul Karim. We will now look at Southeast Asia. Yesterday, we've seen an ASEAN summit opening up in Malaysia with key regional issues on its agenda. It includes US tariffs, Myanmar conflict, the South China Sea maritime disputes among the major agenda items. ASEAN stands for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, and this time they will be definitely looking into the internal conflict inside Myanmar, and how Vietnam, Laos, Philippines, East Malaysia has disputes with South China Sea as the major agendas, as I've said. The Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim is presiding over this summit as the 46th summit. This time would be the first time to see a cooperation between ASEAN, the Gulf Cooperation Council, much of the Middle East, and with China. My question will go to Mrs. Shaikh. Southeast Asia is a powerhouse of nations which was left shocked as protest Donald Trump unleashed tariffs, the highest being in Cambodia at 49% and Vietnam at 46%. Both are RMG-heavy economies. Does the Southeast Asian countries have more reason to unite in the face of such retaliatory tariffs?
Thank you. So the ASEAN is a bloc of the Southeast Asian countries who shares an intimidated bond and interconnection relationship with each other. And this 46th ASEAN Summit is actually addressing the important issues not only of this region but also globally, that already you have mentioned, the Myanmar conflict, the dispute of the South China Sea, and more importantly the imposed US tariffs on this Southeast region. So from my point of view, there is not only one but plenty of reasons that the Southeast nations need to come up together, stand together and unify themselves more stronger than ever. See, if it's not just the tariff, yes, I agree with you that the tariff has been imposed very seriously and it has actually hampered the economical growth of the Southeast region, because you will see that countries like Vietnam, Cambodia and Thailand and so on, they are not only just rising in terms of the RMG sector, but also they are other export oriented and they are industrializing very rapidly. So it's actually time for them to deepen their economical intermediate connection. Why? To shield themselves, their economy, their culture from the global slowdown, from the exploration of power exercise over them. Because you will see that these nations possess very vital resources.
Yes.
Through which they are actually making a rapid progress in the world. And as we have seen that the host country, Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim also stated yesterday that the ASEAN nation had to stand together more strongly, more firmly than ever, because they have to weather the storm of this economic stagflation. That's why not just the economic stagflation, but also the cultural boundaries, the cultural, what should we call it, that is the pushing that we have seen over the decades in these countries. And as you mentioned that we have to be more friendly towards the partners whom with we share a bond. The new dimension of the ASEAN, GCC and China collaboration is actually opening doors for further discussions to actually face the challenges that has been imposed through the US tariffs. So in my opinion, not just for these reasons, but they have actually addressed their regional issues as global issues. The Myanmar conflict regarding Rohingya, how they actually pushed in Rohingyas into Bangladesh.
Yes.
I hope that they will also make a stand, they will take a very firm stand on the Rohingya issue as well to solve this dispute that has been going on for the last couple of years in Bangladesh. And not only Bangladesh, the Rohingyas themselves are the sufferers. So as a growing country, we have been coping with this situation of giving shelter. But ASEAN's member countries need to come more firmly and forward in order to address the issues not from the regional perspective, but from the global perspective as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaikh. Definitely, we were talking about Southeast Asia and the ASEAN Summit. In another story, I'll give you a breaking news actually over the last 3 days. The Philippines accuses China of aggressive tactics in the South China Sea. China's Coast Guard says a Philippine vessel dangerously approached its ship, resulting in a collision. The Philippines Fisheries Bureau has accused China's Coast Guard of firing water cannons and sideswiping a Filipino government vessel during a research voyage in the disputed South China Sea. Now, the United States has a significant military presence on Diego Garcia, a British-administered island in the Indian Ocean, while China has established a military presence in the Spratly Islands located in South China Sea. Both areas are strategically important and involve significant military activity and a future potential for conflict. My next question is to Mr. Aminul Karim. I have read your publication titled Geopolitics of the South China Sea and in the Coming Decades. How do you see China's vast military expansionism? Has China broken any international maritime laws?
Yeah, there was an arbitration in the Arbitration Council of the UN with the Philippines. China lost that case, but that's immaterial. China didn't.
It doesn't matter to China.
It doesn't matter to China. They are aggressive now. I would not use the word aggressive, that would be undiplomatic, but China is assertive.
Assertive, yes, most definitely.
And about South China, no, I have to see the whole picture. I have just again published a new book on Taiwan. It's
Yes.
just published about a month back. So Taiwan, South China Sea, East China Sea, come down to Natuna Islands, Malacca Strait, these are all linked up. Even
Linked
up to Bay of Bengal, these are all linked up. Rohingya issues, and then Chinese bypass strategy in the Myanmar area. These are all linked up. It's good to see the ASEAN summit is being held, and ASEAN has its own, it's a good economic, I'll not say alliance, but it's a good economic union sort of thing. And they have FTA, free trade agreement
Agreement, yes.
within ASEAN countries. And if ASEAN as a whole has FTA with China. So they are deeply involved with China in matters of trade and commerce. Now I'll I'll link up the Middle East and this portion.
Please.
But over there, China was trying to penetrate in Middle East. I think the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia visited China, and the President also visited Saudi Arabia, I think about a year back or so. And America was apprehensive about that. And Donald Trump made the counter move.
Yes.
It cannot allow it to go into the hands of the Chinese. Chinese are very now, very assertive. They will not compromise on Taiwan. They will not compromise on South China Sea. They will not compromise on East China Sea. And I talked about the Spratly Island. It's come up like a big garrison. They have got airstrips. They have got missiles deployed there. And these are all artificially done.
Yes.
These are being artificially done. And the problem with Philippines is always there. Every year, one or two incidents are always there. But Philippines has now again gone back to the lap of the Americans, and they made a military alliance very recently. They had earlier, but they got it, broken. That alliance didn't exist. But now they have a renewed military cooperation with the United States. And Chinese Coast Guard is quite provocative. They couldn't care less, the Filipinos. They can bite off. The Duarte, who was the president of Philippines sometime, he was just bought up by the Chinese with money, with dollars. They call it dollar diplomacy. With dollar diplomacy, the president was compromised. And they compromised their national interest. Now, there are scholars. I've read some of the books. I used to teach this course in University of Malaya, who said that ASEAN is a talking shop. 400, 300, head of state or ministers, they have good dinner, nice dinner, and so on and so forth, and they come back. That's fine. But no, ASEAN is doing a good job. I have no reason to denigrate the ASEAN summit or the organization. They're doing a good job economically, and they're doing a good job in public relations, people-to-people contact, and they have got good cooperation with the Belt and Road Initiative. BRI has come in a big way in the ASEAN countries. And we should be happy if something comes out to deal with the Myanmar military junta. The Rohingya problem is a great festering problem that is really killing us. Really killing us. We have no way out. I don't know what is the future. But Malaysian Prime Minister has publicly declared that we are going to take up the Rohingya issue with the Myanmar government. And he had a closed-door meeting with the Myanmar general, who is commander of the Myanmar government, Min Ming or something like that. What is his name? Some general.
Very tough name.
Very tough name, yeah. During the BIMSTEC summit. But it's more of a diplomacy. I hope it was, but military and diplomacy probably. This is a militarized country. Here the power politics is prevailing. The real politics is prevailing here. Military politics, hard power is working here. Now ASEAN is a soft power. Can the soft power manage the hard power? If they can, fine. But China is never going to compromise on South China Sea. This is my reading. But there are claimant countries, 5 of them, and one more has been added to it, is Indonesia.
Indonesia, yes.
The Natuna Sea. China is also claiming a portion of the Natuna Sea which belongs to the Indonesians. So another claimant has come up. Brunei, Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Indonesia, and so on and so forth. There was supposed to be there's something declaration. Declaration is nothing between ASEAN. Now, what is interesting is ASEAN is taking over South China Sea entirely with the Chinese. So the diplomacy that is going on, negotiation that is going on, is between ASEAN and China as a whole. ASEAN is representing all the 5-6 countries together. That's a good thing. And again, ASEAN is sitting to tackle the tariff imposition by the Americans. That is also a good thing. So now Quad has been formed by the Americans. Quad.
Yes, India, Japan.
Quad has described ASEAN as a good platform. China is saying this is a good platform. Americans are also saying this is a good platform. They are all depending on ASEAN. So I hope if they deal it unitedly together, then I think they can do something about the tariff imposition by the like they have come down a big way in the Chinese tariff.
10%, I think it's done.
In a big way, and this has been settled. The tariff war between China and America has been settled.
Diplomacy has definitely won on the Chinese side.
That is again because of the real politics. China has come a big way, and China might go for Taiwan capture any time, because now they are very strong technologically as well. There's a problem with the war with the semiconductors, and then technology, AI, and do you know the Russians had fired the cruise missiles just the other day? Yes. 9 of the missiles, they were the cruise missiles. The first time you are firing that. It's very, very devastating, these missiles are. So I don't see much headway in terms of resolving the Rohingya issue, but I can see some headway in containing the American imposition of tariffs on the ASEAN countries some way, because the trade and commerce. Otherwise, ASEAN will tilt entirely towards the Chinese. And if it goes entirely to the control of the Chinese, America won't like that.
Thank you, Mr. Aminul Karim. Definitely descriptive. Let's look at the last topic of our show. It is definitely related to Bangladesh. India's perspective of Pakistan-China ties. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar recently offered a pointed response when asked about China's role in the recent India-Pakistan military conflict, in which Mr. Jaishankar quoted, "Draw your conclusions," and that many of the weapon systems that Pakistan has are of Chinese origin and the two countries are very close. Definitely, I will ask to comment on this matter to both of you. India finally understands that in its region a strong alliance has taken place between China and Pakistan. And might I also add here that Bangladesh has had a change in strategic alignment with China and Pakistan. Where has the Indian foreign policy gone wrong? First, I will go to Mr. Aminul Karim and then to Mrs. Shaika. Mr. Karim, what do you think?
Yeah. The recent, should I call it a war or should I call it a stand-up? Well, let's call it a war. There was 4 days war. Only the 2 Air Force fought absolutely face to face and eyeball to eyeball. Eyeball to eyeball. I don't know if it was a drama or not, because of that terrorist attack on the Kashmir village. Was it a drama? Some say it is a drama made by Modi, and some say no. I think to my hunch is these terrorists came probably from Afghanistan. They have a training camp in Afghanistan. The Indians mentioned about that. I think I heard it from some channel, and I tend to believe that. Pakistan is trying to shut them off, sideline them, but they have some bit of, has to have some connection, because after all it plays to their favor at times. But now it is becoming too heavy for Pakistan to absorb that. But India had a massive, what should I say? Shouldn't I, a defeat? We call it a defeat. I would say, I tend to say like that. Pakistan Air Force played havoc to the Indian Air Force.
Yes, 6-0.
6-0, gone. And Pakistan pilots were very smart. Technology was too good. System integration was too good. Aircraft, air-to-air missiles, ground radar, aircraft radar, AWACS, the ground stations all were very nicely connected. They are synchronized. And the pilot was too smart. They fired the missile 200 kilometers away from the from the target, which were the French aircraft, the state of the aircraft. They were shot down. 5 of them were just down. 3, I think, these French. What is the name of that? I forget the.
Rafale fighter jet.
Rafale. Yeah, Rafale. The Dassault manufacturers.
Yes.
And one was MiG-29, the other was Su-31.
Su-31, yes.
Very good, fantastic work the Pakistani pilots done. And they also targeted some of the air bases in India by ground-to-ground missiles. And they also targeted some of the sites in the Kashmir, Indian occupied Kashmir. And India also retaliated. India hit at the Pakistani air base in Lahore and also Rawalpindi. But in the final analysis, when 6 of the aircrafts, and Rafale is state of the art, absolutely. Chinese F-17 is not F-10 is no match to the Rafale. But just because they call it PL-15E, this missile played havoc to the it's state of the art.
Yes.
So Chinese technology is coming up in a big way. And before the air-to-air combat, they blocked the Rafale system. If you block the system, radar system, you jam them, you are helpless. You could not even scramble.
Right.
So the deputy air chief of Indian Air Force was fired just before launching the ground missile
Definitely,
assault.
Mr. Karim, that was a very nice analogy into the matter. And towards Mrs. Shaikha, definitely we see Bangladesh having strategic alignment with China and Pakistan. What are your comments, especially that India is now cornered in 3 sides?
Okay. India is not cornered. India actually has made itself cornered, because as we are talking about India's foreign policy, so we have to mention and drag the liberation war of Bangladesh over here. And we have seen that India is our most close neighbor. And India has actually assisted us in the most distressed situation of the country in the liberation war. Even after the assassination of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, India sent their envoy to Bangladesh. However, after the July revolution that took place in Bangladesh in 2024, even after 10 months, we have not seen India acting like a neighbor. We have seen
Hostile
them,
intentions.
they're not prioritizing the needs of their neighbor. And they expect that we will actually act according to their needs. Not only that, in this case, the recent conflict that India and Pakistan has been engaged with, Bangladesh has actually taken a neutral stance. We have to admit, we have neither commented on each of the sides.
Yes.
But this conflict, and before the conflict of India-Pakistan, the bilateral relations with Pakistan and Bangladesh has actually increased. If we look at the trade increase, the growth of the trade, it has actually increased from the last December 2024 to 27%.
Yes.
And China actually was always a friend of Pakistan from the very beginning, as China and India never shared same thoughts on the same platform. However, geopolitically and geoculturally and geographically, in all the sides, Bangladesh actually now a sandwich country between these conflicts.
Most definitely.
That's why Bangladesh always prefer dignity and respect from their neighbors. However, India acts like not a neighbor, rather a big brother. They like to dominate,
bully,
they like to bully, they like to manipulate, and they like to make us do what they want.
Right.
So, giving shelter to the previous Prime Minister of Bangladesh government has actually exacerbated the anti-India statement among the Bangladeshis.
Yes.
That's why we have seen that in the passage of time, India's foreign policy has emerged, and it is actually emerges with the change of government and change of power around the neighboring countries. For example, that always we have seen India's nature is one party centric or one person-centric policy, that is foreign policy, where it should have been people-centric, citizen-centric, it would have been culture-centric, that we were also once upon a time together. So we actually share the same cultural base. So there would have been more morale, they would have been more, what should I say, sympathetic towards us.
Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Shaika Laulak, and special thanks to both of you, Mr. Lieutenant General Mr. Aminul Karim and Mrs. Shaika Laulak, for their deep insights and contributions to our International Affairs talk show. Ladies and gentlemen, as I draw closer, today is the 27th of May. This day is celebrated as Memorial Day and is a federal holiday in the United States that honors and remembers those who have died while serving in the military, first observed after the American Civil War. That's it for today. I will bring you the latest in world news in tomorrow's installation of International Affairs. Thank you very much and have a lovely day.